And we are starting.
Okay. Look at all those folks. All right. All right, let me know when everyone's in.
Okay, you can go ahead and start now.
All right. Hey guys, thanks for coming to the virtual firm crawl. My name is James Galucci. I'm an architect at Pantheon ADC. I just want to give you a quick rundown of what we're going to do today. So first, I'm going to give you a little tour of our space here. It's a pretty unique space, and I'll let Adam actually over here give a quick description of what we are and what we do here. And then I'm going to walk back to my desk and go through a firm profile, a little bit more about our founder, Clifton Cooper, and myself, and then give you a little view of a few projects that we're working on, and then hopefully you guys have some questions, and I'll be happy to answer those the best I can. So we are located at 216 East Bay Street, which is a really, really nice location. Let me unplug the power for a second. We're right on the river. I'll try not to make everyone dizzy. We're right on the river, so you can see the convention center across the way here. I'll try to give you a view of it. Hopefully the glare is not too bad. Spin around here. So we're right up, we get to see all the ships going by. It's basically everyone stops working for the 5 minutes it takes for a ship to go by, so you can ooh and ah over the massiveness of it. But it's great. It's really nice. It's an old building, lots of light. We open the windows when it's a nice day, and we share the space with several firms. So like I said, I'm with Pantheon ADC. We have A101 Design. We've got Shamrock Drones, bad glare. We've got RW Allen, and we've got 29E6. So RW Allen is a contractor, general contractor. 29E6 is a structural engineer. Pantheon ADC is an architecture firm, and A101 is another architecture firm. So A101 is a small firm, 3 people. There's Adam sitting at the desk. 4 people. Oh, I'm sorry, 4 people. So small, 4 people. Adam is currently the only one in the office. But Adam has been here longer than I have at the Savannah Design Collaborative. I've only been at this space for a year, so I'm going to let Adam talk a little bit more about the Savannah Design Collaborative and sort of what that's all about. And I'm going to move this a little closer to you, if that's okay.
Hey, so I'll give you a little bit about Architecture 101 and then into the Design Collaborative, because they kind of roll into each other. Architecture 101 was started in 2017 by Steve Stowers. He was a principal at a firm here in town, and he decided to start his own firm. So he went over to Beaufort, South Carolina first, opened an office there. 2 years later, he hired me and we started the Savannah office. And I kind of worked from coffee shops and almost like a design collaborative, but over at Bull Street, they have you can rent a desk, and I did that for a while. So after doing that for about 8 months, we realized we needed an office, and office space in Savannah was really expensive. And we started talking with Cliff Cooper of Pantheon, and they needed an office, but they were also having the issue with office space being really expensive. And so we decided to get an office together and create what we call the Savannah Design Collaborative. So we started with our 2 firms, looked at a bunch of spaces in Savannah, and yeah, this is the one we landed on. We actually, Blue Lime is a architectural, they do a lot of rendering and other type of architectural stuff. And they had a lease on the space for 3 years, but they had moved over to the island. And so we subleased their lease, and then just, and just started adding people to it. So it's been really cool. You need me to say anything else?
No, that's it. That's good.
Cool. You can find us on a101.design online and Instagram and Facebook and all the things. So I'm gonna give you back to James.
Thank you. We've got Ryan Murphy here as well. Ryan, would you mind saying a quick hello? He is the owner, principal. What do you call yourself?
Yeah, everything.
So he's Shamrock Drones. He's a part of the Savannah Design Collaborative. I'm gonna put you down over here so I don't have to hold it.
Hey, everybody.
Down there, I got your Shamrock drones in the back.
Oh, yeah, nice, thanks. So I'm Ryan Murphy. I'm the president and all things Shamrock Drones. We've got a small company of about 3 of us now and a couple owners that are working remotely. But we do the kind of a hybrid from architecture to real estate to drone photography to 3D virtual tours and all sorts of things. So I'm a licensed architect. Got a background from Illinois. We've got a background working for the military, and we've had the company for about 4 years. So from that, we get to kind of marry what we know from architecture to what we know and what we're learning constantly from all the drone world that's up and coming. So to put those pieces together for James's company and Adam's company and the collaborative and really the rest of the town, we get to put all those pieces together from architecture to 3D information. So great.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks.
And we have used Ryan on several projects, and it's great to be able to have that digital information and be able to put it into Revit, along with not only the data that it gives us. Hold on, I'm just grabbing my power. Not only the data that it gives us a photorealistic, or actually it's just photographs, essentially virtual tour of the space. So when we're doing as-built for, a residential home, we don't necessarily have to go back and take more pictures. If we'd forgotten to take a dimension on something, we just pull up this thing called the Matterport, which is that data point system, and we can actually scale a dimension right off of that. So I'm gonna take you back to my desk real quick, bear with me. Okay, can you hear me? All right, I want to make sure that you can hear me. Oh, good. Okay, so now, all right, so I'm gonna move over to a little bit about the firm, Pantheon ADC, and let me see here, a little bit about Clifton, and a little bit about myself. All right. We'll start with the firm profile. So I'm not going to go through and read this whole thing. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. All right, so as you can see, can you guys all see the screen? Yeah, great, thanks. So we use, one of the things that was new to me when I first started working in architecture was Bluebeam. I'm not sure if you guys use Bluebeam at SCAD right now. I know it's not an Adobe product, which is what I was used to using, but it's basically just a PDF viewer, but it's meant for the construction industry. So what you're seeing around here is Bluebeam, and it's basically works the same as Adobe, except it has all these tools built into it for takeoffs. You can see up here for when you've got construction drawings, you got square foot, dimensioning, all these things. So it's a great markup tool for PDFs. So Cliff Cooper, I've known him for a while, but I've only been working with Cliff at Pantheon for the last year. They've been around for 17 years. Cliff has a vast experience, I think about 30 years or more in architecture, and he's worked at small firms, he's worked at large firms, and then he's had Pantheon ADC since 2005. He's since 2005 always had his own firm, but he would do consulting on the side. He's an envelope specialist, which means he gets retained from attorneys here in town whenever there's legal issues regarding water intrusion or mold growth, or anytime there's any sort of lawsuit involving a building. Cliff is usually, he's considered an expert witness. And so they bring him in during depositions. So he does that. And I say all that to say that Cliff is very good at detailing. He's very good. He's very details oriented when it comes to the building envelope, which is a great for me, starting off in my career, I'm really learning how to detail a building. I actually learned from him at my old job. He used to work at LS3P with me as well. So he's been, I guess, Pantheon ADC has been around for about 17 years, since 2005. We're based here in Savannah. We do work in the Southeast, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. That's pretty much where we stay. I mean, we're a small firm, so our reach isn't vast, or I should say, our marketing isn't vast. If a project were to come up, we would certainly pursue it somewhere else. But really, what Cliff likes to really hone in on is how we work. And it's what I find is small firms are able to deliver this. Cliff wants to be a good listener first to the client. He doesn't want to push the client into anything they're uncomfortable with. He wants to make sure that he's focused on listening to their needs programmatically, aesthetically, and not necessarily force his hand into pushing the client into something that they may not actually be happy with. Along with that, he never wants to rush a project out the door, which is nice because as a small firm, there's a little bit of flexibility in terms of hours, and when it's your own product going out the door, you want to make sure it's representative of the quality that you want to put out. I'm sure that's the same for many firms, but Cliff really finds that it's a very important aspect of his firm. And he likes to make sure that he'll be willing to push the deadline a day as long as that drawing set is good and well done and detailed correctly, which is really nice. It's refreshing to work in an environment like that. We're a full service brokerage firm, going back to my old life. We're a full service architectural firm, hospitality, retail, commercial, residential, K through 12. I know Cliff has vast experience at K through 12. I've done K through 12 at LS3P. I've worked on a lot of SCAD projects as well when I was at LS3P. Part of also what we do is master planning. So a lot of times clients will come to us and say, hey, we've got 7 acres. We want to find its highest and best use. Can you help us figure out what that is? So they have a general idea of what they want. They want some retail. They want to have a convenience store, a fueling station, and they want to do residential behind that. So we'll take that 7 acres and we'll kind of work with them and create basically a master plan for them that they like. And a lot of times that's our entire scope, at least for that phase of the project. And we do that hoping that we get that work down the line. So it's sort of a feasibility study for the client. And if we can really nail that feasibility and we can show them that it'll work and we can get them excited about it, then we roll that into, future scope of work for us, which is great. And it's fun to do. Master planning is fun. Let me see. So that's a little bit about Pantheon ADC. Real quick, there's Cliff right there, smiling. But as you can see, his career started back in 1988. And you can kind of go through this. He's had, some of these are very large firms. This was a small firm, Dawson Architects, that turned into a large firm, LS3P, when Dawson Architects merged with LS3P. And then you can see here from 2005 to today, he's had Pantheon ADC. And you kind of see his awards and everything down here. All right.
James, a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I noticed he started Pantheon ADC in 2005, but then it also shows he was at some other firms during that time. Is it because he was in specific positions at those other firms? Do you know?
Well, I can speak about Dawson and LS3P because that's where I first met Cliff. He had his own firm, and he had a relationship with Neil Dawson, who was the studio leader at LS3P, and he was the principal at Dawson Architects. So LS3P / Dawson, they're interchangeable for this sake. Neil Dawson needed help So he hired Cliff on as a 1099 employee, I believe. So consultant basis. So Cliff was still able to hold his firm, have his firm, but he was basically taking on additional work from while he was building his business, essentially.
Okay.
So I think that's how that worked for him. If Cliff was here, I'd let him speak a little bit more about that. But that's my understanding. Hopefully I'm not too far off base. There is something in the chat too. Oh, A101 design. Okay. Let me close that. Close.
I also had another question about, you were saying how you guys work. It's to listen, understand, and deliver. With you being a small firm, do you tend to have projects that go over budget?
I mean, you mean in terms of the cost of construction, or do you mean like we spend too much time on the project and it's our budget? Like
maybe more so. I think I'm thinking more so residential. For example, residential customer. We set a budget with them for the proposal and so on and so forth, and
okay,
maybe how that works.
That happens often, whether it's commercial or residential. What we try to do is be as upfront in our proposal writing as possible with the client, saying, hey, we're basing our fee on a $2 million project. And the client has expressed to us, they want a 5,000 square foot home or, retail. And then we know enough, being at the Savannah Design Collaborative, we can pick other people's brains about what is the cost of construction nowadays. And cost of construction, I don't know if you've talked with other architects or kind of contractors, it's going way up right now. I mean, it's crazy how expensive it is to build. So we try to give our clients a realistic expectation of what it costs per square foot, anywhere from, a shell build out, which basically, you're just putting drywall up and you're just giving them a box, and then they'll get a tenant and they'll put a tenant in there for a commercial space. That can be $175 a square foot maybe, or $150 a square foot, to a full build out or a really nice commercial space with really nice materials going up to $350, $400 a square foot. So we try to make them aware of what they're asking for and how much that's going to cost. And sometimes they're like, yes. And then we deliver and you're like, whoa. So, but we try to always work with them in terms of value engineering and taking stuff out of the project. One of the projects actually that I'll highlight, I'll walk through a little bit more about that. It's a Beulah Baptist Church. It's a really exciting project because it's part of the community, and we're trying to but tear down and build a new church for this congregation here in town. And so I'll get a little bit more into the wish list and what you can actually afford to build. That's a good question though. I'll give you a little bit of information about me. I don't have a fancy resume like Cliff does. So I'm just gonna go off the top of my head. But so I am from New York originally. My first stint in education was at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. However, I was not in design field. I went to school for finance. So I graduated in 2004 from Rensselaer with a degree in finance and technology. And then I was a stockbroker in New York. I passed my Series 7 exams, my Series 6, all that stuff. And I hated it. So I did it for about a year. I was a stockbroker. And then I went to work in Manhattan at a hedge fund. And so I wasn't on the selling side anymore. I was on the buying side. And I was reconciling trading, which is not worth talking about right now. But so I was doing that for another 3 to 4 years. I was in Manhattan. And then what I did was I knew I wasn't exactly happy with my career choice. And I don't know if any of you have heard of the Pratt Institute in New York City, but I matriculated into the Pratt Institute. They were doing a summer intensive program for, oddly enough, high school seniors or people that were trying to get extra credit to get into a master's program.
me, I was just going in because I was interested in maybe pursuing architecture. And so I would have to jump on the subway at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I would take it all the way downtown from Wall Street or from Midtown, right by Central Park, Rockefeller Center, to Union Square, go to the Pratt Institute. I think it started around 5:30, and I stayed till about 9:30 at night. It was 4 hours a day for 4 weeks. And then they would give you homework, and I would hop on the subway, go all the way back uptown to Queens, and stay up till about 3 o'clock in the morning working on things. And then, since I was on the international trade desk, I had to be at work around 4:45 in the morning. So I'd get an hour and a half of sleep. I'd go to work, and I would do the same thing for 28 days for a month. What that taught me was that I really liked architecture, because no matter how tired I was, no matter how late I was up, I would always go to work and I was excited. I was excited to go back to Pratt. So that basically made me go to SCAD. Long story short, I played lacrosse my entire life. So I met the head coach here at SCAD, and he needed a grad assistant coach. So that sort of was sweetened the deal for me to come to SCAD. I coached for 3 years of my 5 years at SCAD. When I went to SCAD, it was a 5-year master's program. So I basically started over when I was 28, I believe. But it's great. I love Savannah. I met my wife here. I've got 2 kids. I live downtown in Baldwin Park, right by Victory. So that's me. So it's never too late to start over. I don't recommend it, but it's never too late to start over. All right, I'm gonna go through a couple of projects. We'll start with that one I was talking about, Chiderica, the Beulah Baptist. I just have the renders actually, but that shouldn't be bad necessarily. One sec, opening it up right now. Yep, still opening. All right. Can you see that? Okay. So this is Beulah Baptist. We use a software for our rendering called Twinmotion. Are you guys familiar with that? Okay. It's fairly affordable for small firms. It really wasn't too expensive for us to implement this as part of our design. Clients were asking, clients nowadays, they kind of expect renderings. But what we've done now is we've started implementing that into our proposal, because it takes time to get a rendering to this level of cleanliness. And I'm not even saying this is the best rendering in the world. I'm just saying, just to get it to this point, it can take 3 to 4 days of your normal job plus doing this. So we normally offer it as a option to our proposal. If you want this, then it's going to cost this much extra or we can do it hourly for you, but it's not part of the scope. So this church, it's right over the railroad tracks on Anderson Street if you're heading east. There's an existing church there now. It's somewhat old. I'm not sure how old the congregation is, but it's somewhat old. And the pastor approached us and they really want this. So it started out a much bigger church. We have since cut it down by maybe 20%. We're working as a design build partner with Marchese Construction on this one. So Marchese Construction had the relationship with the pastor. They came to us if we would be interested in doing the project. And we said, of course, yes, absolutely. So we sat with them, and like Cliff has always wanted to do, he listened to what they want. We gave them an idea of how much it was going to cost. They said, okay, that's fine. When it actually came down to pricing this project, it was pretty much way over budget. And we were out of fee. and we didn't know what to do because we had already submitted it. It was done. We were done. In our eyes, we were done. We had met our deliverable. However, we really want to see this project move forward for the congregation. We feel like it'd be great for them, great for the community. The pastor is really a gregarious guy, really kind, always says thank you. He's really appreciative of our work that we have done. So we want to make it work for them. So we've worked out somehow financially to make it work for us. Now we're not going to make a gazillion dollars on this project, but we're trying to just at least cover our bases. But this is one of those projects that's just been around for a really long time because we're trying to get it to work for them. It's really interesting. We've cut back on material, we've cut back on square footage, general construction. We went from a metal, non-combustible building to now an all wood building. We were able to do that by reducing the size and the scope. And then we got rid of the fire sprinkler when we added a 2-hour firewall. So we actually technically have 2 buildings within this one building by creating a fire separation for the sanctuary and the rest of the admin and the little classroom area. I don't have a floor plan, I apologize. It might be hard to visualize, but basically we've experimented and we've pushed it in order to get this project to work. And that goes back to Cliff's dedication and our dedication to Pantheon is to our client and trying to make sure that they're happy with the result. A couple more images. So we're still kind of learning how to use Twinmotion. We're going through, we're learning, it's fun, but we can't do this all day. Wish we could, but it is a good time. The next project, Sharka, if I'm I want to be mindful of our time too. If I need to skip something or is it a hard stop at 45 minutes or?
No, we're doing good.
Okay. All right, let me go to the next project. This one is in the historic district, pre-app meeting. I wanted to show you this one because I feel like it's the most similar to what you might do at school, at least what I remember doing at school. So this is a cool project. You might be familiar with this building. It's on MLK. It is a 4-story building on Jones Street. Let me pull up a map actually. There we go. So here's Martin Luther King right here. Here's the I-16 ramp coming down. I think the end market is like right here. That might be the end market, or maybe that's the end market. No, I think that's the end market right there. You can see. And that right there is our building. So I know in school, what I remember doing are diagrams like this, or similar to these. So, we've got the 500 square foot radius ring here, and then this is a 700 foot radius ring here, and I got my project in the middle. So what I was doing here, since it's in the historic district, we need to share this information with the MPC. Leah McCulloch, she is the director, I guess is her title, but a head preservationist at the MPC. And what we're trying to do is add a rooftop addition to this building for the specific tenant. It's a condoed building. He's on the 4th floor. He wants to put an elevator in to the rooftop and create a pavilion up there. So what we had to show was the impact to the overall public. So what you can see is I've walked the site, I've taken photographs, I've circled the vista of where that building might be, kind of hard to see, kind of proving to the MPC that the impact is minimal from the public right of way, that you won't really see it. I've cut site sections here and site sections here. These little blue and orange, you can kind of see the tracking. That's how far away you'd have to be to see the projection if it was unobstructed. So something that's sticking up 10 feet on this roof, this is the Civic Center. You'd have to be, and this is 700 feet. So that's, I don't know, another 300, 400 feet. So you're a quarter mile away before you can see it. But then you obviously can't because there's trees and buildings and things like that. So it's just kind of a diagrammatic way of showing, hey, this is not going to be a huge impact to the city of Savannah. it's what the client wants. What do you think? And so here are those site sections. Below are some concept images that the client had shared with us of what they're looking for. Sort of this clean contemporary style, steel and glass kind of thing with the shed roof and steel, tube steel. We're excited about this project. We're sending this to the HDBR on next Thursday, which I have to work on all next week. But we're excited about it. And you kind of see the site section here for Berrien Street, kind of a vantage points of there's our little structure.
James,
Yes.
you said HCBR. Could you let everyone know what that acronym is?
Sure, Historic District Board of Review. Anytime you're doing a new construction, additions, rehabilitation, fences, awnings, signs, anything in the landmark district, you need to present it to the board. Sometimes it's staff level review, depending on what it is. And if the staff says it's okay, you can move forward. Depending, alterations and what we're doing has to go in front of the board proper. So we'll submit it to the staff will review it. They'll give us a recommendation and they'll give the board a recommendation. And then the board actually, I have to get up and present this project. You guys are welcome to go. It's a public meeting. I don't know if it's virtual. Even if it is virtual, it's public, I think. But you're welcome to go and sit and watch the presentations of all these buildings. You can find out when the buildings are being presented on the MPC website, the Metropolitan Planning Commission website. And you can see all the projects that are in town. Actually, you can kind of scroll through and see all the different designs, which is fun to do every now and then. But this is just showing, the scale of the building itself. There it is. It's about 50 feet tall. If you're standing on Berrien Street on the sidewalk and looking up, you kind of see the vantage point. Can't see this. Same on this side. And then the section crews on this side, kind of where you'd have to be, can't see it there. And then obviously there's no sidewalk on MLK on this side of the street. There's that big berm. So the first part, you're all the way out here when you're trying to see. So we had a pre-application meeting with the city of Savannah or the MPC. They had no problem with what we were trying to do. So here's sort of the general layout, but then I'm gonna go ahead and show you the more up-to-date one. So here's the layout. Here's the ground floor, not the ground floor, but here's the condo unit below. Kind of see we're demolishing a portion of the ground of the condo unit here. We're putting in this single lift, single person, maybe two person lift inside of the building. It's a post-tension concrete structure. So we had to get the building x-rayed to figure out if there were any tendons in the roof structure. Luckily, they had put a leave out, meaning they purposely left out a portion of that roof structure with no tendons, no steel, so that if ever in the future, we could punch through and put in something like an elevator. So we found that. We identified it. We haven't broken through yet. We have to get approvals before we move forward with that and go through construction documents. But conceptually, this is what we're doing. There'll be a glass wall here. So this will act as a light well for this interior room too, which is really nice. Probably frosted glass. And then if you look at the section, that's on the next sheet. But as you come up, you'll kind of come out and you'll come out to this porcelain tile patio with all these pavers, and you kind of step down to this artificial grass turf that's down here. And there'll be a little shower station there as well. So it's a pretty cool project. Here's, I think, the section. This is a roofing structure diagram for my own sake to make sure I could figure out how to get it to work. And I shared this with our structural engineer, Tharp Engineering, to help me figure out how to size all this steel in the roof structure to make sure that I was close. And then here is the section. You can kind of see there's the 4th floor, there's the elevator, there's a little vestibule, and there's sort of the pavilion out there, kind of a wood slat fence, kind of separating the mechanical units from the pavilion area. And we do twin motion renderings, and then we get down and dirty, and we just try to make it as good as we can make it look in Revit. So these are just straight from Revit renderings. You know, you can tell the difference, but it gives you an idea of mass. And you know, I found this image on Google of the Talmadge Bridge, and kind of just stuck it behind in Revit. This is all in Revit, and kind of that's about what that view will be from this rooftop. So that's from the back side. This is from the front side looking up. You can kind of see we're trying to match that aesthetic of steel and natural wood on the underside. And this is maybe a view of what it might look like from inside the pavilion area. So we're excited about this project. We were still sort of in design schematic phase here, and we're trying to push it through HDBR by submitting it next week on Thursday. The last project is a South Carolina project that I've worked on called Okatee Retail. Not sure how familiar you guys might be with Okatee. This is going to show you a little bit more of the construction documents that we've had to prepare. So this is sheets from our sealed set. It's not the entire set, and I'll go through it more quickly. Working at Pantheon, I've actually been able to get some experience working in pre-engineered metal buildings, which I haven't really done a whole lot of in my previous jobs. So believe it or not, this building here is just a pre-engineered metal building. So you've got steel moment frames at predetermined bay spacing across this entire building. And basically what we do is we just clad it. So it's a fairly inexpensive way of creating a structure that can be erected rather quickly. So basically it's no different from any other veneer system. The pro is it's done quickly, it's relatively inexpensive. But some of the cons are it's hard to manipulate. The trusses are the moment frames are designed by a third party, not our team structural engineer. Someone else kind of designs the superstructure, the moment frames, a third party. Our engineers will design the loading of those, and so they design the foundation. So anytime, let's just say, for example, it probably won't happen, but they wanted to add a second story to this building, they have to track down the original shop drawings for the moment frames in order to manipulate them, because they're stamped by their engineers, and they have to you have to work with their design in order to manipulate the building. If you wanted to punch an opening and it had to cut through some steel, everything has to go back. Where if it was a metal frame building, that's basically conventional framing, someone can analyze that loading and you can manipulate the building any way you see fit, you know, as long as you meet code and structural and all that stuff. Regardless, it's kind of interesting to be able to try to do something that's associated with warehousing a lot, pre-engineered metal buildings, and turn it into sort of a retail center. So I'm really happy I'm getting experience in sort of that nomenclature or that aesthetic. So this is up in South Carolina, in Okatee. It's probably about a 30-minute drive from here. This had to go through a similar design review board process with Beaufort County. So it's similar kind of part one, show them the math, show them the size, show them sort of what you're doing. Part two is, you know, if you get approval for part one, you go back, you design more. And part two is materials, details, you know, overhangs, all that stuff. So I'll kind of walk you through quickly and kind of show you how we did this. And here's a typical design team for us being the architects. This is a little bit misleading. It says Islands Engineering, but John Farmer is our civil engineer. He just didn't have a South Carolina stamp. So he had to get another engineer to stamp his drawings. So Bill Quante, he reviewed the drawings and stamped our civil's drawings because the civil was part of our team. 29E6, he's a part of the Savannah Design Collaborative. I remember, if you remember me mentioning him earlier. And then Sebring Engineering, Ricky Sebring, he does all of our PM&E, plumbing, mechanical engineering. So here's the site plan. So sort of the master planning of what I was talking about earlier, kind of figuring out how to, it's a tight site. You can see the property lines, property boundaries like this. We had to meet minimum parking requirements, and we've got 2 drive-through restaurants, one here and one here, and basically trying to figure out how to make that all logistically work. I know, there are buffer requirements for Beaufort County. South Carolina is really big on landscaping, more than any other jurisdiction that I've had to work with before. They have really, really stringent requirements for landscaping. You kind of see what we've had to do here as a requirement. This isn't just aesthetic. This is something that we had to do in order to meet the ordinance, along with the pervious paving. I'm not saying these are bad things. It's just sometimes it can be challenging and cost prohibitive to have to do all this stuff to make it work. But we had to manipulate the drive-in. We've got one-way circulation around the entire space. We've got one drive-through here, and then enough space here for another drive-through there, garbage pickup. Let me see. For the pre-engineered metal building aspect of it, you kind of see the regular space grids on our structural grid. It's kind of a random size here, but 33, 25, 25, 25, etc. And if you look in, see, you can kind of see the pre-engineered metal frame on these predetermined bay spacings. I've got a section I can show you as well. Here's our roof plan. It's kind of similar to what I showed you with the rooftop condo. They wanted to see where all of our rooftop equipment can be seen from. So I have site sections done on our property lines. You kind of see, I drew these sight lines to see that the mechanical equipment would be hidden from view. And then you can kind of see, this is 278 all the way out here. I don't know if you're familiar with 278, but it's a highway that runs from 17 all the way to Hilton Head, basically, in South Carolina. And I don't know how far away that is, hundreds of feet, but you're basically looking through there. But point is that there is visibility from this highway, and South Carolina wanted to make sure that not only can we not see the mechanical equipment, but that the back of our building was designed in such a way that was somewhat appealing, because it's going to have high visibility from 278. All right, and then
with that kind of aggregate in it.
I'm on a Zoom call. That was Steve Sowers. He's now in the building. All right. Here is the front elevation. Now this is construction documents, so there's a lot of notes, a lot of dimensions. So it's not necessarily a presentation drawing, but you can kind of see all the notes we had to go through: signage, ordinances, grid lines, and overall aesthetics. I have some renderings of this one, so I'll just kind of skip the elevation so you can kind of see. This was not only for our client's sake, but it was also for the HDBR, kind of a very meticulous, okay, that brick is going there. That metal that's the grout color, that brick's going there. And it basically gives them an idea of this is a requirement for the HDBR or the design review board, but it's a nice, you can kind of see the palette of colors that we've chosen for this building. The renderings might not be spot on, but it gives you an idea, at least here. And here as well, kind of the side elevations. Here are some sections, wall sections. I didn't copy over the building sections, but you can kind of see here's that moment frame, right? Coming all the way down to tapered frame, coming up and over. And then if it went all the way across, it would come here, and it would cut, ends right there. Actually, it goes behind this building and comes down here, behind this wall. But it's interesting to learn new ways of detailing, right? Since this is sort of a very specific detail for a pre-engineered metal building, where you've got blocking, metal framing construction, and this sort of the standing seam or metal roofing system that gets attached to the purlins and clips on. And then you've got this draped insulation for the tenant build outs. And real quick, just some more of the detailing. Kind of see our detailing of our brake metal copings and kind of different varying levels of brick detail. So I like this, and I might geek out a little bit on it, but really, this detail here, you'll see this on a $65 million, $80 million hotel, boutique hotel, the same detail. And you'll see this detail on a $2.5 million pre-engineered metal building retail shop with 2 quick service restaurants, drive-through restaurants. So it's kind of interesting. The level of design in terms of the detailing of a building, regardless of the scope of the work, has to be at this level. It's not just because our project isn't a $90 million project. We're not paying close attention to how we're designing the envelope, both aesthetically and functionally, which is something that I really like, regardless of scope of work. It's really nice to be able to dive into the details like this. And that, down to the bracket design, for someone to come in and manufacture these brackets for us, to the plan details, showing how I want the contractor to design this when I've got 2 materials coming together. Again, another bracket detail, to our sill details of how I want to make sure that that building is protected, and aesthetically having an even coursing of brick coming up to my row lock, and how I want that all to kind of function. How we're using sloped detail brick here as part of our detail. Again, this is a pre-engineered metal building. However, you see the same details on a huge multi-story building. So you always have to pay close attention to those details. Some more plan details, kind of just showing how we're popping out our pilasters. This is the corner pilaster detail of our building. How we have an air gap here, smaller air gap here, and how our row lock is kind of dying into the column or to the pilasters. These might look similar, but the only difference here is a different material up top there. All right. Before I go to the renderings of this project, are there any questions on the details here? I think I saw did I see something in the chat?
No, I was just saying, if we
3
can
minutes.
go on to the the renderings and then
Yep.
Q&A.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I know I'm being a little bit loquacious. Let's see. These are the JPEGs. That'd probably be fine. Can you see the JPEG? Or do I have to reshare that screen?
I think you have to reshare that screen. We still see the details.
Gotcha.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. I think these are the renderings we shared with the, again, Twin Motion. Firehouse Sub was a potential tenant. They have since they're no longer going to be the tenant in this space, I think. We're just quickly kind of showing the vegetation that they wanted to see. I don't know what plants will actually wind up going there, but, and you can kind of see the shell spaces that we've designed. Night shots, sort of the entry has since moved, but that was the old entry point in the center. I don't like the people. I've since figured out a way to make them silhouettes. They're just kind of like black or gray or white people, and not these photorealistic weird people. And here was some marketing material that the client wanted just to share with sort of potential tenants, real quick, down and dirty out of Revit, just showing the sizes of the individual spaces and kind of the queue ups for the cars, for the drive-through restaurants. That's all I got. Sorry, I think I went a little bit over time, but hopefully that was good and you guys got something out of it. But I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
I actually have a question about this one. So since this is a shell build out, once they do acquire the tenants for these spaces, is that when they'll come back to you guys for specific designs on those areas?
They don't have to, but yes, it makes sense for them to do that. And that's usually how it's worked for us in the past. We've got a good relationship with the developer for these. So it's sort of a unspoken agreement that, you know, he'll get a tenant and he'll come to us and we'll go ahead and build out the shell for them. It really, it'll save the tenant money. It'll save everyone really money in the long run, since we've got the institutional knowledge of how this all goes together. So it makes sense for us to go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you. Can you see my screen actually?
Yes.
You can see here, Shaderica, we just dash in these bathrooms because we don't know if a tenant's gonna want 2 spaces, 1 space. So we basically just do this for stub ups for plumbing. We don't know, and you can see here, there's no toilet, right? Because that's gonna be a QSR. They've got their own requirements for toilets and how they want, like a brand like McDonald's. They've got a very specific layout of how they like to do things. Chipotle, whatever, any sort of national brand come in, take this space, they're gonna wanna lay it out the way they wanna lay it out. So we kind of omit that completely from the drawings. And also, the way we do this is we design the foundation around the building. And then when they erect the building, they just leave it dirt on the inside. So it's all just dirt on the inside. And the detail, how we'd like to do that, if I can show you on this. So this is what we design. We go around the building with just this footer, the strip footer, and then we put a little key. We form this key when we pour the concrete, but we leave this portion of the slab out so that when the tenant comes in, it's just dirt, and we can kind of manipulate the infrastructure easily without the concrete being there. And then once the tenant comes in and everything's set, they come back in and they pour that slab smooth, and then it keys into the footer right here and here.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
I have a question.
Okay, Jordan.
Do you think it's more difficult to work remotely, like now that like we're in like in a pandemic?
I'm glad you asked that. That's something that I didn't get into. Do I find it more difficult? Yes. Yeah, that's definitely the short answer. However, I think there's a lot of flexibility in working for a small firm. Cliff has really made it as easy as possible to work from home. I've got 2 kids. I've got a wife who's also an architect here in town. Sometimes schedules can be demanding in terms of deadlines and things like that. But I had to work from home for a month. Most recently, I had to work from home for a month because there was my wife had COVID. Everything's fine, but my wife had COVID. I was exposed to it. I couldn't go anywhere, so I basically set up shop at the house. And as my wife's computer was there, I had 2 monitors. It was the dining room table, and we just, we had our pseudo office working from home. But it was, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was as easy as it could have been. And I'm grateful for Pantheon ADC and Cliff for allowing us to be flexible. I had to give out my personal cell phone number to make sure that clients could contact me. We've got something called Magic Jack. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but basically it's a internet phone that I had to forward to my cell phone. So when people were calling the office, they were calling my cell phone. So I had to make sure I was still available for our clients or anyone who might be inquiring for work. But I also had to manage my kids and do all this. So it was a lot, but pandemic aside, just the flexibility that's allotted to us here at Pantheon. If my kids are sick or if my kids have a day off from daycare because it's a holiday, but it's not a bank holiday, You know, I can work from home, or I can work at night. I can fill in those times, and you know, it's a pretty flexible workspace that we have here, relatively casual. I actually, you know, I didn't wear jeans today because I thought I want to make a good impression on you guys. That was a joke, but you guys are muted. I'm expecting that you're all laughing, so that's good. Anyway, I don't know if that answered your question. Thank you for the tears. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, so I don't know if that answered your question. It's difficult right now. Not to even mention when I first came on, I came on in April of last year. So that was like right in the middle of everything. And, you know, I worked from home from April to June, and things started to loosen up a little bit. And then I was kind of coming into the office a little bit, and then, you know, daycare someone would come down with COVID and I'd have to work from home because the kids would be home. And then, so it was on and off there for a while, but we've been steadily coming into the office now for a while. So it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. Did I answer your question, Jordan?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a question.
Yes.
I want to know how the pandemic has in the last year, like I know some of the projects go on for really long, and if you all have started working on a new project during COVID, how is the client requirement changing, and what are they expecting, or are they thinking this is a short-term thing and nothing needs to be changed?
For large, I think a lot of our clients, including us, we're somewhat optimistic that things will eventually get to some semblance of normalcy. However, the restaurant designs that we do, they are asking for higher partitions between their booths. They're asking for either plexiglass or glass partitions that separate spaces to kind of help segregate the spaces within the restaurant seating area. Whether that's just to make people feel more comfortable or to actually prevent the spread of any sort of, you know, airborne contaminants. I don't know if it'll work, but it'll certainly give the impression that there's some sort of barrier there. It's got to help in some aspects. So along with restaurateurs taking special consideration to their takeout service and also to their drive-through service. Some restaurants that we've helped out with recently never had a drive-through platform before, but they've had, or it wasn't their standard design, but they came in and they were talking with us and they're like, our restaurant is closed, but we've got drive-through, you know, around the block, and we need to figure out a way to get more people through our drive-through. So in the new designs that we're doing for some of these restaurants, we're focusing more on sort of this drive-through aspect, so that the takeout idea is, you know, is a little bit more feasible if and when a shutdown happens again, where restaurants are closed, they may be able to still operate because of that separation where they're just handing food through a window to a car. So otherwise, I think overall our design hasn't changed. Certainly with residential, we haven't seen a huge impact there in terms of how people want to lay out their spaces. And for us, the impact has been somewhat minor, focused really on the restaurant side of things, where we see the biggest impact and how people want to maybe manipulate their floor plans and their services because of the pandemic. But like I said, some of the larger developments that we're doing that I wish I could share with you, but they're somewhat confidential. It feels like a normal design. It feels like a sort of how I was doing it before with large scale sort of commercial development, where it's just, we're not really focusing too much on pandemic barriers and things like that.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyone else with questions?
While you guys are thinking, I'm gonna go ahead and put my email in the chat.
Sweet. All right, and I had an overall question. Just thinking about the size of your firm, of Pantheon ADC and everything, and the experience level of everyone. Do you often do like summer internships, or I guess that's it. Yeah. Do you do summer internships, or is it more so of I guess a full-time employment? Or I mean, I know that's the
Yeah.
goal, internship, but
Right now we only have full-time employees, and there's 3 of us. I am not the principal. I've only been here a year. My first year was over the summer of COVID, so we certainly didn't have any summer interns then. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure if Cliff is open to that or not, but I can certainly find out for you. I can let you know.
okay.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. Does
No
anyone
problem.
else have anything else? Any other questions for James?
I don't see the email in the chat.
No? Let
Oh,
me
it
see.
looks like it came directly to me.
Oh, sorry. Let me do it again. I didn't realize it was only to Sharika. James at pantheonadc.com. And Pantheon. Yes, I do. Thank you. ADC. All right. You see it now?
Thank you.
All right, no problem. Sorry about that. Please feel free while you guys are going through. I'm assuming some of you might be in thesis or close to thesis, or not sure what levels of design or studio you're in right now. If you ever want a question about how something is put together in terms of its detail, or if you ever have a question about aesthetic, or you want someone to critique your work, I'm usually happy to do so. Just please reach out to me. You can email me. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me. And I'm happy to either set up a time, either virtually, we can meet here at the Savannah Design Collaborative. We can go over some stuff, okay? Really, I like to I'm trying to get back involved with SCAD somewhat. I used to guest lecture there a bit with Professor Singhuisen a few times. I was a thesis advisor on some thesis advisory committees in the past. Things have gotten kind of crazy, so I've dialed it down a little bit, but that's always been something that I'm interested in doing. I like the educational aspect of it, so.
Sweet. Love to hear it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
thank you, James. Thank you
No
so
problem.
much for this. We really appreciate it. And we'll be keeping in touch.
Sounds great. Have a great day, guys. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.